No,
I
just
wrote something
okay.
about it.
But no, but tell me
All right, I'll tell
a
you also.
little bit.
I can send you. I wrote a pretty good thing about it, about the interview. But basically, what happened was that he was a communist, you know, and he overthrew, him and his people overthrew Haile Selassie, the last emperor, and killed him. And then Mengistu killed a lot of people, and he retained the sole control. He was like the dictator. But then, and the Russians, the Soviet Union was supporting him against the rebels. There were these rebels from Tigray and from Eritrea. And they were fighting him. And he ruled with an iron hand. Everybody was really afraid of him in Addis Ababa. And, but then what happened was that the Soviet Union collapsed in the late 80s, right? And they stopped supporting him, you know? It stopped being the Soviet Union. So they stopped giving him money to fight the war. So he needed to reach out to the United States, and he was trying to do it also through Israel. That's why they invited me to do the interview.
They actually
So
invited you?
Yeah.
Well, who were you?
So what happened was in August of 1990, I heard that all the Ethiopian Jews, the Beta Israel, had come down from Gondar, and they were in Addis Ababa. Okay? So I sent myself there. No one was covering that story. I sent myself there. I had 4 different places that I was writing for, and I sent myself there. And then one day, close to the time I was leaving, I got a call from Kasa Kabede. Kasa Kabede was Mengistu's right-hand man, and he was his person, everything concerned with Israel, especially also and the Jews, because he'd been in Israel as a young man for 3 years. He spoke perfect Hebrew. Anyway, he called, and I thought he was going to kick me out because I wasn't there. I didn't have a journalist visa. They would never give a journalist visa. I was just there as a tourist, but I was writing. So he said, I read everything you write. I get it. They fax it back to me because every morning from my embassy in Israel, because they'd reestablished relations with Israel. I thought he was going to kick me out. But instead he said, would you like to come interview the president? I said, wow, yes, of course I would. So I said, but I'm supposed to be leaving tomorrow. When is it supposed to be? So he said, no, go back home and we'll tell you. So I went back to Israel, and then I kept calling him, and finally, one day they called. He called and he said, get on a plane, come interview Mengistu. Once I was there, I had to wait another 2 weeks, but it was okay.
So
his Mengistu's main thing was he was trying to say that he wasn't really a communist. He was really a nationalist, and he was defending Ethiopia against the Arab intruders. You know, he was trying to make it was at the time of the Gulf War, so he was trying to make it that he was like on the side of the United States. And he was trying to get them on his side, and I would say, like, why don't you let the Jews? Why don't you let the Jews out? He said, oh no, I don't want to do the Israelis. It's all the Israelis' fault. They're not giving me the right documentation, and they're not sure who they want, and this and that. And anyway, whole thing.
So he actually was ruling Ethiopia, and the Jews wanted to leave Ethiopia to come to Israel,
Yeah.
and he didn't allow them?
Oh no, he wouldn't. They didn't have freedom. People did not have freedom of movement. They weren't allowed to leave. Nobody was allowed to leave.
So then there was a special...
I mean, a lot of people went in the 80s through, that's why they went through Sudan. They walked through Ethiopia illegally from an Ethiopian point of view, crossed into Sudan, refugees in Sudan, and only then they could come to Israel. But Operation Solomon was different. They came directly from Ethiopia.
That was an Israeli operation. They actually kidnapped the Jews from
what happened was
from Mengistu's country.
What happened was the rebels had surrounded Addis Ababa. Slowly, the rebels got stronger and stronger, came closer and closer, and then in like May 20th or something, Mengistu fled the country, went to Zimbabwe. There's no president anymore, and the rebels had surrounded the whole
He escaped.
Addis Ababa. And then that's when they didn't know what was going to happen when the rebels came in. And then they made a deal with the rebels. The United States helped to let the Ethiopian Jews go. And they did this airlift. But it was a time of like chaos and craziness because there was no authority anymore. So it was a very dangerous time. But the rebels let them have the airlift.
You were not at that point in Ethiopia.
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there. I flew in the morning of someone tipped me off. I was there the last commercial flight to enter Ethiopia before the airport was closed for a month. I was on that flight, and I was there for Operation Solomon. And then I stayed for the rebels thing. Instead of going, I could have gone back on the last plane.
What did you do?
I was writing about the war, about the civil war. I was reporting.
You were reporting from Ethiopia to where? Israel, America?
Israel, America. I also had the first day I was on the cover of the London Times because
You had a camera filming you?
No, I wasn't filming. I was writing.
Oh, there was writing.
I was writing.
And it was posted right away on that day.
Yeah. In fact, what happened was, we knew the day the rebels came in, we heard that there was, because all the phones, there were no phones, there was no long distance phones, because he was like a dictator, he wanted everything to go through an operator so that he could listen in on whatever he wanted. His people could listen in. So all the operators, they were stayed home because everyone was scared. The rebels came in. It was a war. Nobody went to work. So but we heard that there was a direct line that you could call outside the country from one of Haile Selassie's old palaces, which was serving as Mengistu's military headquarters. So I went in there with the rebels and with a couple of other journalists, and we called out our story from there.
The rebels considered you as a reporter, or as an American reporter?
When you were a Ferenj, meaning
Ferenj, white.
Yeah, white. Then they treated you with a lot of respect, for some reason.
I mean, the fact that they're called rebels doesn't mean that they are bad guys. They're just rebelling from the, dictator.
They were the Tigrian People's Liberation Front.
Tigrian, they liberated the Ethiopian, the Amhari from their dictator.
Yeah.
So they saved the
right, but there were also right away there were Amhara that were against them because the Tigrians
they could have taken over.
The Tigrians they allowed Eritrea to break off, and that meant that there really wasn't. Ethiopia lost its main avenue to the sea because they were going to let Eritrea become independent. And then the Tigrians also became dictators too. Meles Zenawi.
So so you were there when the Ethiopians kind of like organized the Operation Solomon, or what was it called?
I wasn't there. I came the day. I mean, I was there a lot before that, but I wasn't there.
Oh, you didn't see that was very quick?
I was there the morning it started. I was there.
What happened on that morning?
Then it started, and then it was 24 hours. I mean, then all the Ethiopian Jews who remained in Addis Ababa came into the Israeli embassy. It had like a lot of grounds. And then they had to go through a whole thing and then come up and like I was part of the group because it was Shabbos, Friday night. I put away my notebook and I started to work, and I was like helping to make sure that all the families were together before they got on the buses. They would come through, you'd have to check them. They weren't allowed to bring anything with them because they were afraid that if there was bags that somehow someone could infiltrate and put a bomb in the bag and it could blow up on the plane or something. So they couldn't bring anything, only the clothes on their back. And I had to check that, and I had to make sure people were together. They had an ID card with like who their family was.
Wait, who was in charge?
The Israeli embassy.
And Israelis wanted that check.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And our Shaldag was there, like the commando of the Air Force was there, and at the airport, the last plane, then the Sgan Ramatkal was there. Amnon Shachak.
Lipkin Shachak.
Shachak.
Amnon Lipkin Shachak.
Yeah. The whole thing. I was 33 then.
Oh, that was in Shlomo's time?
Yeah.
Where was Shlomo?
He was wherever he was. America, here, I don't know.
He knew that you were involved in Ethiopia?
Yeah, he knew.
What did you think about it?
He liked it.
You liked that?
Yeah.
What did you think about Africa?
think he liked Africa.
He didn't go there.
He was in South Africa.
He was there. Oh, yeah, he had a concert in South
He was in South Africa. Loved it.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I remember when the whole thing about conversion for Ethiopian Jews came up.
Yeah.
So he said, the whole of Israel should jump into the mikveh. Everyone. They should convert. Everyone should do it together. Anyway, that was what he said.
Interesting.
Yep.